Well, yeah, I mean, you got to follow your heart, man. And so you said, yeah, that you learned a lot of lessons with Ricky
Hmm.
um, about just the business in general. Obviously, you one of the biggest lessons that you learned from him was the importance of proper hair care, and you got the got the gel going on. So, uh, but I, I think sometimes that's what, people are so concerned with the technical aspect of trumpet playing, which obviously is very, very important. But if you're going to make it as a professional, there are completely different skill sets that you have to have. And, it's hard to teach that stuff in a school. Sometimes the best lessons are just the ones you learn, on the road and on the grind. So when you think about the biggest lesson that you learned working with a pop star, which many people would look at that. There are many musicians that would look at that as being like, oh, if I could only do that, my career would be complete. Um, but what do you think the biggest lesson that you got out of that was, whether it was something about the horn or something about the business or something about life in general?
Well, the biggest lesson that I got playing in that band was to remain humble, man. Because the boss was like that. Ricky was like that. He was this guy at the pinnacle of his career, world superstar, and he couldn't be any nicer and more simple of a human being.
Yeah,
So to me, that was a big example. That was the number one. Number two, he was such a hard worker. If there was anybody that worked hard, was that dude. So people always see the finished product,
yeah,
and they don't know what's behind it.
right.
So Ricky was always working, man, always working. That was the second lesson, and the third lesson, gigantic lesson, was that everybody's the same. Everybody wants to have a good time. It doesn't matter if you're from China, or you're from Argentina, or you're from the United States, or you are black, or you're white, or you are purple, or whatever, green, whatever color you are. Everybody wants to have a good time, you know? And music does that for people.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter what music you play, you know? Um, and probably also something really important that I noticed, and I got to at a very early age understand, was that I was very fortunate. I
yeah,
was a very fortunate person because my passion was to make music, and I was making a living making music at a very
yeah,
early age. So yeah.
yeah. Well, that's a lot to be grateful for. And
Mhm.
I think that, I mean, just knowing your story, just to the level that I do, um, that you're exceptionally grateful for the fact that you have the opportunity to use your gifts and something that's something that you love and that you've worked so hard to do, that you're able to use it uh, as a way of making your living. But I think even more importantly, because as you said earlier, your decision to leave Ricky and to go with Boston Brass, and now transitioning into your role as a professor. I know you're still working with Boston Brass as well, but you're also willing to take the next step, understanding that sometimes to move forward, you have to leave some things behind, and that takes a lot of courage. So, when you were making that transition into back into the world of classical, since that's kind of where you started, and,
Mhm.
and you migrated into
Mhm.
pop and then back into classical. Um, when you're contemplating that decision, uh, besides the fact that you're trying to build your brand and your own individual mark on the trumpet world, what were some of the other deciding factors for you that made you go, yeah, this is the route that I want to take, or that I feel called to take at this moment?
Well, it was a very difficult decision, man, because at that point, in that band, I had been 8 9 years at that band in that band, and those people were like family, you know. I had the best relationship with Ricky, with their family. They're just great people too. Um, so it was a difficult decision. It was just a professional decision. It was just a business decision on my end.
Hmm.
You know, I think that when you are making a decision, you have to have a picture, a bigger picture than the moment that you are, what's happening right now, and you have need to have a bigger picture where you want to go. Every time you make a decision, and this is probably more of a talk for the younger people, you know, if you have to make a hard decision in your life, you need to see yourself in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years from that moment, and see where you want to be in life and what's gonna steer you down that way a lot more.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
understand what I'm saying? So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of wired that way to begin with, and I'm always thinking it's almost like being a chess player, and it's here's where I want to be in 5 years, 10 years. Is this thing I'm doing now going to get me closer to that or further away from it? And maybe that's just the way my brain's wired, or maybe it's just because I'm old. But either way, um, that's something that I see lacking in a lot of people. And is that something that now that you're dealing more on a daily basis with young budding trumpet players, people who want to become professionals, um, is that something that you're seeing that is lacking in those students? And if it is, how do you go about encouraging them to think a little bit more strategically about their decision making process?
Well, I started the studio, because I give them a lot of freedom in terms of not. I don't give them freedom in etudes.
Mhm.
I don't give them freedom in trumpet technique. I give them a lot of freedom in repertoire. So when they choose a piece, and that's for X Y reason, it doesn't work out for them, and my first thing to them is like, okay, well, go back, analyze why you chose that piece, because you liked it. Okay, great, and why else? Because I liked it. Well, then there's the wrong choice. You have to have you always have to. Life is too short. People say life is too short. With life being that short, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. You have to try to kill two or three birds with one stone every time you make a decision, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So if I start doing long tones in the morning and I am not paying attention to the long tones I am playing in the morning because I am watching TV or I am reading the newspaper while I do long tones, I am wasting time. Because if I pay attention to what I'm doing, I'm going to be able to take a lot more benefit because I'm going to be analyzing the way I am producing the tone. I'm going to be analyzing what kind of articulation I'm using, how much articulation I'm using, how is my air, all of those things. And all of that thing applies to what I do on a daily basis. So I think that in a way, life is the same way. Every time you make a decision towards something, you have to have, you have to see how that affects in the path that you want to follow. So I my I remember what I was going to say at the beginning, and then I forget. I got my clutch got stuck. Uh, Marketable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. So if you want to be marketable and you want to have a path that you want to follow, um, you need to start investing, putting money into that bank account in order to follow that path. So if I am playing an exercise like the Clark exercise for the regular things that we do for Clark exercise, flow, being able to play in one breath, this and that, blah blah blah. I switch the exercise around and I play slower, I play faster, I play with double tongue, I play as loud as I can, I play really soft. So I have different uses for that exercise. And every time I am doing something with the exercise, I have a purpose. That is not only the purpose that is given to me, but I'm looking for a second purpose. So, decision making in my life, man, I don't know why it's been easy for me. Maybe not always the greatest decisions, but they've been easy. You understand what I'm saying? We all make mistakes. But I think that had to do with my mom when I was a kid. She was very, okay, you make your own decision. Oh, I cracked my head. Well, you made the decision, didn't you? So, in that way, I was very lucky because I was never super. My mom was never super protective of me in that sense, and that gave me a sense of being more aware
Yeah.
of my surroundings. So it starts with that. I start with the students that way, man.
Hmm.
And I try to convince them that every decision they make, it has consequences, positive and negative ones. So they need to balance what it is that I know. I went in a long tangent here, man.
Oh, no, 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 that's good. I
That's what we
actually,
do when we hang, right?
yeah, exactly.